now. So welcome everybody to the first session in our 2023 Volunteer Festival, marking Volunteers Week. So I'm delighted to welcome Joanna Pollard to our first session this morning. Joanna is the project lead on eBay for Change, and she's going to tell us all about that, what eBay for Change is all about. And so Joanna, I'm going to pass over to you, and I know you've got some slides to share with us as well. So over to you, Joanna. Thank you.
Thanks, Sally. Yes, it's great to see everybody. I didn't realise I was opening the festival, so yes, it's nice to be first on your screens. So yeah, you may recognise me. A couple of years ago, I was involved in the Volunteer Festival talking about the future of fair trade campaigning. So I've been involved in fair trade for years. I ran my own fair trade business for 17 of those doing retail, and I actually started my business selling on eBay. So when the opportunity arose to get involved with eBay for Change, it felt like a really sensible thing for me to become part of it. So eBay for Change is a partnership between eBay, Social Enterprise UK and the World Fair Trade Organisation, and we've supported almost 300 social and fair trade enterprises to grow their business on eBay. I started my working for them on International Women's Day, the 8th of March in 2021. So we're just about 2 years old now. So it's relatively new, and it was a really sort of radical concept at the time that a big business like eBay would want to be supporting social enterprises and particularly fair trade enterprises. It's not something we'd seen before. A lot of the time with fair trade campaigners, we're a little bit nervous around big business. Some of you may remember my involvement in the campaign to keep Kit Kat fair trade 3 years ago, and obviously I had a meeting with Nestle, and we a lot of the campaigners were very nervous when that partnership started. Why are we working with a multinational like Nestle, and all of the sort of ethical problems that raises? eBay comes from a slightly different place. So eBay isn't like Amazon. A lot of people think that they're very similar, and they're not at all. eBay doesn't have its own products. It doesn't sell its own products. It doesn't even, one of the issues with Amazon is that they have warehouses and the people aren't treated very well. A lot of them are going on strike at the moment. eBay doesn't do any of that. eBay is all about peer-to-peer. It's about people selling to people. They were set up with the philosophy that essentially people are good and they will look after each other. So much of the things that we think about with eBay, it's about going somewhere and buying a thing from a person. Maybe there's somebody just around the corner and they've got something that they've used and they don't need anymore, and you can take that off their hands. But a lot of people don't realise that there's 300,000 small businesses just on eBay in the UK. They've got 27 million customers. When we were thinking about how to help social and fair trade enterprises to embrace e-commerce, eBay was the obvious choice. So this was the sort of founding document of eBay for Change. And it says, when the social enterprise model is paired with fair trade, it becomes an engine for equality and opportunity to create the economic transformation the world desperately needs. That ethical business needs to expand and thrive commercially. New markets are becoming pivotal to their future success. The global community, WFTO is the global community, and the verifier brings together social enterprises and fair trade focused on opportunities for economically marginalised communities. And eBay as a global marketplace, they're keen to support those social enterprise models around the world. What were we trying to achieve with it? Tackling the systemic exclusion of marginalised communities from economic opportunity. Now that's marginalised communities in the global south sense, but there are lots of marginalised communities in the UK that are being served by UK-based social enterprises. So homeless people, people with sort of barriers to market, refugees, people who have got addiction issues or have mental health issues or disabilities, or people who just have faced different barriers that some of the rest of us have got, and how do we support those people? Using the power of eBay to facilitate and advocate for change, supporting the transition towards a more inclusive, equitable and regenerative economy. So we've got 3 pillars, eBay for change. The first one, accelerating the growth of the social enterprise sector. Now that's the practical nuts and bolts of what we do with eBay for change. What we offer the social and fair trade enterprises is no fees. So if you, as like a normal person, you go on and you want to sell something on eBay, you pay them a fee to list it, and then you pay a fee at the point when it sells, which is normally a percentage of however much you sold it at. Charities have always had the opportunity to register with eBay, and they don't pay those fees. And it felt like offering that same opportunity to social enterprises was a really good idea. So not only do they get a free shop front, which helps they can tell their story, they can explain about the people that they support, and they get lots of free listings, and they don't pay fees on when they make a sale for the first 12 months. Really helps them to get started. But we also train them. So we have a 12-week training course, which basically tells them everything that they need to know to be able to thrive on eBay. Like, how do you write a good description? How do you take a good photo? How much information do people need? When are people going to be expecting you to post it out? When are they expecting to receive it? How are they going to be expecting to receive it? All of those things. And how do you set your prices and things like that? Those are really important things when you're competing against millions and millions of other listings on eBay to capture those 27 million customers and really help them understand why it's important that they support social and fair trade enterprises and buy your products. Second pillar is spreading the business model. One of the things that people think about with eBay is it's a place you go for secondhand stuff, or what we are increasingly calling pre-loved. And one of the great things about pre-loved fashion in particular is there's a huge problem with overproduction of fashion and things that get bought and worn a couple of times and then thrown away. And if you can keep that item out of landfill, if you can give it a second life, if you can help break that cycle and make sure that garment or that wardrobe or whatever it is used again by somebody else rather than going into landfill, that is a really good thing. And lots of people on eBay are doing that. And that's a thing that social enterprises do. So maybe they don't realize that what they're doing is acting as a social enterprise. So part of what we're trying to do is to help people who are effectively operating as social enterprises to understand that that's what they are, and to transition officially and become part of the movement and realise that actually they're not just sort of ploughing their own furrow, they're part of a wider movement about trade justice and economic justice. And the third pillar, we wanted to try and shape economic ideas and policies. So one of the first things we did within a few months of starting the programme in 2021, we had a meeting with the all-party parliamentary group for social enterprise, and we explained eBay for change to them. So there were various MPs and lords and people in the room, and we explained what we were trying to do. And I think the name of eBay, because it's very well known, is a really good way for us to get our foot in the door to help shape policy. So I'm working from the Social Enterprise UK offices today. We have a general election strategy and a campaign manager and all of those things. And we're working with the political parties to help them understand why it's important that in their manifestos for the next election, social and fair trade enterprises plays a part. And eBay as a name helps us get into those places and have those conversations. Who are the partners? Social Enterprise UK is a national body supporting social enterprises, and we've got about 3,500 members. So it's the world's largest network of businesses with a social purpose. And together, we're helping to create a fairer economy and a more sustainable future. The World Fair Trade Organization, I'm sure you're aware of who they are. They're one of the people that Shared Interest supports, and their members around the world are supported by Shared Interest and the Shared Interest Foundation. It's the global body that supports fair trade businesses. Now, because they're global, they don't have that many members in the UK. So what we do is we're partnering with BAFT's Fair Trade Network UK. I've been involved with BAFTs since, well, I became a member in 2005, so I've been involved with BAFTs for a long time. And they're the UK's network member. So they are the representatives of the World Fair Trade Organization in the UK. We have about 100 members, and about 25 of them are involved with eBay for Change. So that most of the fair trade enterprises that you find on the eBay for Change programme are members of BAFT rather than members of the World Fair Trade Organization in their own right. And we're also working with other partners, Social Enterprise Scotland, Northern Ireland, School for Social Entrepreneurs, Unlimited and Good Market. And some eBay for Change's sellers are actually members of a lot of different organisations, so they might be members of 2 or 3 different organisations. So why is change needed? The global trading system is built on 400 years of prioritising profit over people and planet. Climate change and global inequality are making most of the world poorer while enriching a few at the top. A fairer global and local economy will help everyone to thrive. Now, there are around 100,000 social enterprises in the UK. It's estimated they contribute about 60 billion to the British economy, and we employ about 2 million people. So it's a big sector. But we think that it could be bigger. We think it already is bigger. So there's probably 250,000 businesses that look like conventional businesses, but might think about being able to transition to become a social enterprise. And it's very much the future. Social enterprises vary from, our team day was at the Velodrome at the Olympic Park. That's run by a social enterprise. The whole of the Olympic Park as a legacy is run as a social enterprise. So there's huge ones like that. There are hospitals, there are care homes, there are dentists, down to the very small micro businesses that work in your community, supporting people with locally with mental health problems or whatever. There's lots and lots of different ways that social enterprises can show up. So what is it that makes social and fair trade enterprises unique? They have their social or environmental mission locked in. So for fair trade enterprises, that's in the 10 principles of fair trade. For a social enterprise, there are certain legal things that you have to do to be able to recognise as a social enterprise. Basically means that business can't be taken over by somebody and turned into something else. It's locked in. At least 50% of your profits are dedicated to your mission, whatever your mission is, whether it's environmental or supporting people or employing people. And that doesn't necessarily mean you're donating your profits. It can mean, okay, so if we employ this person, they work more slowly because they have a disability or they have other barriers. So it will cost us more to employ that person. So it's not necessary. Sometimes it's just about acknowledging that running a social enterprise is more expensive than running a conventional business. So they're tackling different social issues and supporting marginalised communities in various ways. For example, there's a social enterprise called the Bike Project, and they teach refugee women to use bikes, because if you come to the UK and you're not in a position to be able to buy a car, so how do you get around? And you can't afford buses. They give you a bike, they teach you how to ride it, and that means it just gives you freedom. Things like that are really good examples of where social enterprises are thriving, and they're part of eBay for Change, and they sell bikes that get donated to them, and things that are associated with bikes. That's one of the big sectors that eBay for Change is dealing with, is increasing cycling and supporting people to make the most of different forms of transport. So they're employing people who are furthest from the jobs market, and that brings its own challenges. paying a fair price and using environmentally conscious materials and giving that long-term support that you expect from a social and fair trade enterprise. You don't want to be buying from a particular supplier one year and then ditching them and getting it cheaper somewhere else. That's conventional trade. Fair trade is different. So these things all make it more challenging to run a social enterprise, but obviously more rewarding as well. We find that social enterprises are much more collaborative rather than competitive. They like to work together as a community. So it was an obvious choice to bring them together and help them support each other. Some of the examples of social impact: tackling global poverty, which is one of where our fair trade enterprises come in. Nurturing children, now that could be in terms of helping children get access to sport, get access to outside, get access to toys that they wouldn't otherwise have. It could do with education. So one of our social enterprises sells products in the UK that are made using Ghanaian chilies, and all of the profits goes to supporting education for the children in the place in Ghana where the chilies come from. Those sorts of educational work is a really important part of social enterprise. We have health and well-being, so that could be things like, we have a lot of people who do the sort of open water swimming, which is really good for both physical and mental health. Empowering women, a similar sort of thing. A lot of the people who do the open water swimming are women, but a lot of the fair trade enterprises also support women who wouldn't otherwise be able to go out to work. So one of the typical models of fair trade is you go and work with a group of women who just, for cultural reasons, they're not able to access the jobs market. So you work with them and help them work out what they can do. Protecting the planet is a really easy one. Obviously, so much of what gets sold on eBay is pre-loved and recycled and upcycled. So that was a really obvious one. And a lot of the social enterprises are working in several of these spaces, and they have lots of different impacts. Some of the business models, obviously fair trade businesses are adhering to the 10 principles of fair trade, and they're working in partnership with suppliers and producers around the world. Buy one, give one is a really interesting business model because it does what it says on the tin. If you look at a pair of socks and they're £12, you think, why is this pair of socks £12? Well, actually, you're buying 2 pairs of socks because you get one and the homeless person gets the other one. That's where buy one, give one comes in. So a lot of our sellers are on that model where their social impact is really clear. You buy this person benefits. I mentioned on the last slide, a lot of people in social enterprise are working with people who face barriers to employment. So employing somebody with disabilities or with a background with mental health or addiction, or ex-offenders, people who would not be able or would struggle to thrive in a conventional environment, and just taking the time to nurture them and support them and help them understand what they can do rather than what they can't do. So we're training and supporting refugees, ex-offenders, people with disabilities, young people at risk of going into gangs, and keeping goods out of landfill. And then access to sport is a big one as well. So people who feel marginalised and don't feel like they can sort of just go out and get on a bike or go in the water, and helping people realise that that's for everybody to do. This is from a report that the Social Enterprise UK brought out a couple of years ago, just to explain the impact of social enterprise on the UK economy. So a lot of them are very young, 47% are under 5 years old. They're making a profit, they're doing okay. A lot of them are bringing in new products all the time, different, they're very reactive. This is one of the things that we found with social and fair trade enterprises. When the pandemic hit, all anybody wanted to buy were face masks and chocolate. So many fair trade shops, obviously they had to close down. What do you do? So we pivoted and we worked with partners in the global south, and they started making safe face masks. And that was the way that we supported them. But that was the way that we also supported people in the UK who needed those things. And it's about that reaction. We're not necessarily planning many years ahead. We might have to pivot and change and respond to things, and very resilient. That there are statistics that say that social and fair trade enterprises were much more likely to survive the pandemic, things like that, than a conventional business, partly because there's more of an impetus to do so. If you're not just doing it for yourself, if you know that you have your social mission and the people that you're supporting at heart, it's much more likely that you will try to pull out all the stops and really try and survive and thrive. So they're led by women, much disproportionately compared to conventional business. And also by people from Black, Asian and minority ethnic backgrounds. So one of the big groups of people who is marginalised in the workforce are people from Black, Asian and minority ethnic backgrounds, and they're setting up their own social enterprises and helping each other to thrive. And they're paying the living wage. Now, a lot of organisations are saying, well, how can we increase pay? We can't do it. We can't mark. A lot of social enterprises are managing to do it. The way you do it is to you bring your own profit margin down, and that's how you support the people. And if you make that a priority, you can do it. And 22% of them operating in the most deprived areas of the UK, where people really need that employment, that support, that help. And that's where social enterprises are showing up. And they're really keen environmentalists as well. It's all about the future. We're in the process of defining a social enterprise whose entire purpose is tackling climate change, because it's such an important thing. I was in Ghana recently. I've seen the problems that climate change is having, that when you're expecting it to be dry and it's wet, you're expecting it to be wet and it's dry. That unpredictability is affecting fair trade farmers around the world, but it's also going to start to affect us here in the UK. So reducing plastic, reducing packaging, reducing waste is really important to social enterprises, and that's where we're showing up with eBay for Change. So let me just tell you about some of the people who are part of eBay for Change. Tea People are based in Reading. They're run by a couple from India originally, and they sell tea. So their social impact, they buy direct from the tea plantations in India, and it's cooperatives that they're working with, which is quite unusual in Indian tea. So the profits go towards the healthcare, the education, and women's empowerment in those tea growing areas, to break the cycle of poverty, to improve access to proper healthcare, educate and train the women in the regions that they're supporting. And they're doing really well on eBay. They had a piece in their local paper when the fact that they were on eBay for Change became like a really important story for them. They sell lots and lots of different types of tea. They're thriving. Another organisation that's working in India is Ethicana. So these beautiful wooden toys. The social impact is working with and empowering small-scale artisans, supporting economic development, encouraging continuation of traditional manufacturing processes, and using sustainable materials instead of cheap plastics. So they're sourcing through fair trade values, supporting economic development of women, and using these sustainable materials. The owner, Arshad, is passionate about acting as a catalyst for artisanal revival. So these were people that he knew. And the last two sellers that we've talked about, they both work in India because their family background and heritage is India. So they understand the people, they understand the culture, and they want to support and help people to thrive where they are. Seabirds is one of the sellers that works with open water swimmers, and they're using their profits to fund community swim projects promoting outdoor swimming for well-being. So their specific focus is on ensuring everyone, especially those underrepresented in the swimming community, is able to experience the benefits of swimming on their mental health. So what they sell is things that are to do with swimming and helping people get access to that easily. The B shirt sell fair trade clothing for babies and specifically for breastfeeding mothers, and they're all about empowering women to breastfeed confidently in public and supporting sustainability through slow fashion. So they have fair trade supplies, they use fair trade cotton. And they also they work on the sort of buy one give one model. So when you buy from them, you get that they are able to give a breastfeeding shirt to a woman who wouldn't otherwise be able to afford to do it. What somebody who is struggling to breastfeed or is sort of nervous about it. So they pay for training and support. So you're not just buying the product. You're buying the story and you're buying a support for somebody else. One of the great things about social and fair trade enterprise, it's sort of a cross between a charity and a business. So that there's the business aspect, but you pay that little bit extra, and it's like giving an extra charitable donation. But it's more sustainable, because if it's just donation based, as soon as people have got not very much money, then they will stop donating. Whereas if you've got a product to sell and you're using those products to further your mission, it's much more sustainable in the long term. And Recycle IT are based up near me in Bolton. So John's the guy that runs it. He's an ex-offender, dyslexic, really struggled at school. But one of the things that he learned to do in prison was helping to refurbish computers. And he works with autistic adults and helps them to learn how to do it as well. So the impact is that they sell and donate refurbished tech, saving it from landfill and meeting the social needs of the local community. So he's working in Bolton. There are deprived areas. He works with local businesses and they give him their sort of defunct tech. He upcycles it. And when you buy a product from him, that enables him to give a laptop to somebody that needs it, that wouldn't otherwise be able to buy it. And obviously, because they're donated and upcycled, he can do it. Even if you buy one from him, like brand new off eBay, it's a lot cheaper than it would be if you were to buy a brand new one. So he's about bridging the digital divide, improving digital accessibility, and just helping keep things out of landfill. So some of the sellers have given us testimonial to say how the impact that they've managed to have. SoFab Sports say that the real impact is in our social outcomes. In the 18 months so far, we've created 3 full-time and 6 new part-time jobs. All have gone to people who had lost their way slightly. 4 of them are homeless, 2 have learning disabilities, and 1's a stroke victim. So that's them. Their impact is all about employing people, and they start from the position where everybody can do something. So if you go to them and say, can you give me a job, they will work out what you can do rather than say, well, you can't do this, so no. They will always try and find something for anybody who comes to them to do. Butterfly Books, they're run by a wonderful brother and sister, and they write books that are about tackling sort of gender imbalance. So my daddy is a nurse, my mummy is a firefighter, all of those sorts of things. So this is a part of nurturing children, helping them have aspiration and see that actually, if you're a little girl and you want to be a doctor, you can, because it's not just that girls become nurses and boys become doctors. Those sorts of aspirational social enterprises are really important. And they've said that the support has been brilliant. I've learned so much, especially in areas like social optimization. I've also connected and collaborated with other social enterprises on the programme. And that's the really key thing. It's what I said before, they're collaborative rather than competitive. They don't see each other as competing. They want to. It's eBay for Change is a curated group of products, and they're so different from each other that actually you're not in competition with each other at all. And the bigger it is, the better it is. So yeah, the social enterprises on the programme have really thrived and survived and enjoyed being part of it. Our latest iteration of eBay for Change is that WFTO themselves are setting up a shop on eBay for Change. There's never been a space where retail customers can buy products from WFTO members direct. And the eBay for Change shop will be that. So eBay's got a global shipping program, which means that even though eBay for Change is only on the UK site, customers from all around the world can buy those products and get shipped to wherever you are in the world. So it's a really great opportunity for WFTO members in Bangladesh or Tanzania or Peru or wherever to sell their products to retail customers and to have a curated range of WFTO fair trade products on sale in the UK. So I'm hoping that that you'll be all in a position to support our eBay for Change sellers.
Thank you, Joanna. That's fantastic. Thank you very much for that. I'm conscious that we're rapidly running short of time, but just wanted to say, do send us through any links that you would like us to pass on to people, WFTO, and when that gets up and running, do send that through to us and we can share that with those who've joined and perhaps through the recording as well. So just want to say a huge thank you, Joanna. We do just have just over 2 minutes left if anybody does have any quick questions for Joanna before we inevitably get cut off by Zoom. But yeah, just open it if anybody has any quick questions at all.
Hi, just one, Joanna. Hello there. Just quickly wanted to check with regards to eBay, if someone wanted to obviously support the social enterprises on eBay, is it quite easy for them to find them? So like if someone was looking to buy a certain product, how would they actually be able to find those social enterprises to make sure that they are working for the charities?
Yes, so our all of the listings that are from an eBay for Change seller, when you see the listing grid, there'll be a little eBay for Change logo on there, and it says from a social enterprise. So if you spot that, then yeah, that's how you find them.
As simple as that. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. I guess we're also used to looking for the fair trade logo when we're buying things face to face in shops. It's just a case of looking for the right logo on online on eBay. Excellent. If anybody does have any further questions, do drop them through to us in an email and we can pass those on to Joanna and get responses for you. But yeah, just thank you, Joanna. That's been really helpful, really interesting. Some familiar names of those organisations to us at Shared Interest and me personally too. So it's great to hear more about what eBay for Change is doing and how it all works. So thank you very much for that. We will pass back any other questions, and we hope that some of you will be joining us for further sessions in the Volunteer Festival over the next few days. So thank you all for joining, and thanks again, Joanna.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.